Okay, let's get started. Right, so we're going to need yarns A and J here, your hook obviously, and I think you're probably also going to want to use a stitch marker, and I've chosen the lovely little Chapel View Crafts toadstool because it's just so cool. Isn't it lovely? I want to wear that as a necklace really, but there you go. So yes, we're going to get started on the base. And the base is a lovely lesson because it will show you how to do standard increases on a circle. If you're working on a circle, this kind of lesson will show you how to make that circle as big as you like. You can go on ad infinitum if you want to. Right, so for our project for now, however, we are going to be working with the yarn held double, or sorry, no, two yarns held together. So I've got my two colours held together, which gives a really nice technique. Okay, so I've tied a knot in the end of my yarn to keep the two held together. You don't have to do that. So magic loop, if you're going to dive straight in, if you've not done it before, if you're going to dive straight in with the two yarns together, that's absolutely fine. Hold or just sort of drape the cut end over your fingers, wrap it round once, and you can see the yarn forming an almost cross over my forefinger there. I'm going to put my hook underneath where the yarns cross, and I'm going to clamp my forefinger down on top of it. That's going to allow me to take this finger out, and the yarn, the little loop, is sort of still there. It's not going anywhere, but it's not secure, so we've got a couple more steps to make it secure. I'm going to grab the yarn with my hook and kind of maneuver the hook through the centre of that loop, and I won't lie, it's a little tricky, so you're probably best to do what I just did, which is grab the loop and help it on its way. I can let go now because I've got things a bit more secure, and just to make them super secure, I'm going to grab the yarn and pull it through that little loop one more time. So now I can let go of everything. It's perfectly secure. You've got a nice little loop there to work into. It's not going to go anywhere. Okay, so that's magic loop. Do practice that if you're not familiar with it, because it's an excellent technique and it gives a lovely closed circle, which is useful for things like baskets. Right, so we are going to make our round one. And we've made a chain. That was the chain we just made there, and according to our pattern that does not count as a stitch, which is very useful. I do like it when they say that. What we need to do now is make 6 double crochet into that loop. Super time to remind you that we're working as usual for Little Box of Crochet in UK terminology. So I just simply put my whole hook right the way through the centre of that loop to make my stitches. So there's 1, 2, you might find 3 that it takes a little bit of getting used to working these 2 yarns with what is a relatively small hook, perhaps for sort of the width of yarn that they make when held together. You want that because you're making a product or a project, sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're making a project with a bit of structure to it. So it needs to be quite robust, and you will achieve that with a smaller hook and a fatter yarn. Right, so I've made my 6 double crochet, and I'm just going to pull the cut end gently, and you will see the circles start to curl upward and close, and if I can really give that a good pull, you'll see what I mean. It gives a really closed centre to your work, which is, I think, a nice finish on something like this. So we're going to be securing our circle so that it doesn't go anywhere by making a slip stitch into the first stitch we made. Okay, and this is where it is a little bit tough. If you're like me and you've got sort of slight issues with your hands, give yourself a time to rest in this, because like I said, it's a good robust thing that you're making. So it can be quite stiff, but that's fine. Okay, so we've got our round 1 complete. We've got 6 double crochet, nice and neat, centre is closed. What you want to do now is sew, or maybe not now, but in a couple of rounds time, sew that ending to keep that centre nice and closed. I'm going to continue and sew that in a little bit. Right, so we have finished round 1. We're now going to go on to round 2, and we're going to need to increase our stitch count, because if we continue working with 6 stitches round and round, we're going to just make a very long, very thin tube, and that is not the idea. We want to make it a little bit bigger. So we're going to make another chain. Again, does not count as a stitch. That's just getting our hook up to the height it needs to be to get our new stitches in. And we're going to go around our circle and make 2 double crochet into each stitch. So we're going to increase into each stitch. So where we had 6 stitches, we're going to end up with 12. Now I'm just going to stop. I've just made stitch number 1 there, and I'm not going to go any further because this is where I'm going to put my stitch marker. We aren't working round and round in a spiral, but even if we were, we really want to know where our round begins and ends. So mark your first stitch, and it's a good point where you can sort of stop and count your stitches, make sure you've got the correct amount. Okay, so I've marked stitch number 1. I'm just going to carry on, and I'm going to put 2 double crochet into each and every stitch all the way around. Right, now here is my last stitch, stitch number 12, and I'm back to my first stitch because it's marked. So I'm going to take my stitch marker out and close the round by putting a double crochet, by putting a slip stitch into the first double crochet we made. So just slip stitching it closed, just like I did on round 1. And there we go, we have now got round 2. So you can see really clearly our rounds. You can see the centre point with our 6 stitches, and you can now see round 2 where we have increased into every stitch, and we now have 12 stitches. So round 3, same thing again. We're going to put a chain, 1 chain in to bring our hook up where it needs to go. This time our increases do not happen on each and every stitch, they happen on every other stitch. So to start with, I'm going to just put 1 double crochet in my first stitch and pop my stitch marker in. So our increases happen every alternate stitch. Okay, so we've got 1 double crochet and then 2 double crochet. So that's 1 and that's 2 and that's 1 and that's 2, and that is how you're going to work all the way around. 1 and then 2, 1 and then 2, and you'll know if you've got it right because you will end your round on an increase on 2 stitches into 1. Okay, so I'll see you at the end. Okay, I'm now on my last stitch with the magic of editing. I've also got rid of my end, so that's lovely, it's not distracting us. Okay, so there we are at the end of round 3, which means we should now have 18 stitches. So our increase has gone from every stitch to every other stitch. So let me just count that. This is always the scary point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 and 18. Phew, the relief. So I'm going to remove my stitch marker again, close the round with the slip stitch, just as before, and now we're ready to go on to the next round. So if I put my 1 chain in ready to go, where do our increases come on this round? So last round they were every other stitch. This round we're going to put 2 standalone double crochets before our increases. Okay, so let me show you what I mean. So we're going to do 1 double crochet into the first stitch. I'll just mark it. One double crochet into the next stitch, and then 2 double crochet. Our increase comes on our 3rd stitch. So every 2nd stitch in the last round, every 3rd stitch in this round. Can you guess where we're going to be going on the next round? Every fourth stitch. So so it's 1 double crochet, 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet. That is the pattern. 1 double crochet, 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet. Your increase comes on every third stitch. So let me whiz around. I'll see you at the end. Okay, so I'm now on to my last stitch, which should be stitch number 24. So that is the pattern for increasing a circle going outward, and you can carry on like that as long as you like. So you start in the center, you increase on every stitch, and then you increase on every stitch from the center, you increase on every other stitch, then you increase on every third stitch, every fourth stitch, fifth stitch, and so on. What is really good on Emma's pattern is she has done her increases in a different colour to show you, so you can see how the increases spiral out from the centre and are adding size to that base. It's very simple, and it is it's a lovely rule to know. So for our smallest basket, we only need to work up to 30 stitches. So I've got 24 here. I've completed round 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got one more round to do, and then we can start working up the side. So let's just do that. Let's just make sure our rule works. So closing with a slip stitch, and I'm going to go around just as we have before, which is 1 chain. That doesn't count as a stitch. And for my pattern to complete here, I'm now going to be to continue, I'm now going to be doing my increase on every fourth stitch. So I've done my first stitch, and I'm going to mark it just as we have done all the way around. Whoops, I keep dropping this this hook, don't I? So 1 double crochet, that's stitch 1, 1 double crochet, that's stitch 2, 1 double crochet, that's stitch 3, and 2 double crochet in stitch 4. Okay, so there's your, I like to chant. just kind of, we're friends, I can tell you these things, can't I? So I like to go 1 1 1 2 1 1 1 2, and that just will help me remember where my increases are going. So your chant for this round is 1 1 1 2 all the way around, and that will give you your 30 stitches. Okay, last increase, 1 and 2. Okay, so shall I be brave and count them? Let's do it. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16 17 18 19 20 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 and 30. Hurrah! I do sound surprised, don't I? It's because I am. Okay, so I'm going to still close my work with a slip stitch, if I can get my stitch marker out, just as we did before. But we are now ready to move on to back loop only round, which I'll show you in the next video.